that we've learned the basic principles of note names and rests, we can extend the concept a little bit. So, before we had a line, and we said that this line was some unit of time long. So let's say it was a minim long, or a half note, or a crotchet, or whatever unit of time we wanted to call that. Now, let's stick with the with the semi-brief for the moment. So we have a whole note length of time there. So we have a notation now for if we want to split this thing in half, or if we want to split it into quarters. So that's fairly straightforward. But what happens if we want to split this time length into threes? Now we've got a problem because we have no way of accessing divisions of 3 in this notation system. So what we're going to do is we're going to add, firstly we're going to add ties and then dots. So a tied note is just basically when we take the time value of a single note and we add it to the time value of another note. So let's say this one was 1, then this would be 1 and a quarter. So 1 and a quarter. And we can add any notes together like that. So if we have a minim and that, and let's say now, for argument's sake, the minim is 1. Because remember, there's no fixed value for the note lengths. And then this one would be 2, 4, because 4 minims fit into 1 breve. So if we add these together, we would have 5 beats. So that can give us access to different numbers, but we still don't have threes. So to get to threes, divisions of 3, we will just say, let's say this is 1, so we call that 1, and we add half of 1. So that will be 1.5. Or, because again the names are relative, we could say instead of that being 1, that's 2, and then that becomes 1, and there we have our 3. So, oh, and I should add the tie on top of this as well to group them together. So that's how we get to threes when we want to subdivide. Now, if you recall, right at the beginning, I mentioned, at the beginning of the first video, I mentioned that this line doesn't represent any specific length of time. So let's say, for example, and we can use any number here, let's say this line is 5 seconds long. Or let's use a more convenient number. Let's use 6 seconds. And we wanted to divide this line into units. Now let's go with our whole note there. So one whole note is now 6 seconds long. So if we want to make 2 line segments, we go 3 seconds plus 3 seconds. So a whole note is 6 seconds, and a half note is 3 seconds. So that's fairly straightforward. Now, because our note doesn't relate to the actual time, we can use any note to denote that time value. So, instead of using a whole note, we could have said that that line is a minim. So now a minim is 6 seconds, and if we split it in half, a crotchet is 3 seconds. So that'll be a crotchet and a crotchet. So if we want to divide that 6 seconds into bits of 3, all that we need to do is we need to come up with a notation that splits into 3. And so what we do is we can, as we saw just now, we can either use that, which will be 3, we just erase that as well, or the notation that we're actually going to use is to just add a dot. So now we take our line and we've divided it into 3. So now we can say a dotted minim is 6 seconds, which means that we have 3 crotchets and each crotchet will now be 2 seconds long. Fairly straightforward. So that's just what the dot means. It means 2 over there plus 1 to give us the 3s. So we can do the same with any note. We could use, let's say for argument's sake, let's use a quaver. So if the dotted quaver is 6 seconds long, then you would have 3 semiquavers, each 2 seconds long, which equals up to that dotted quaver. So the principle is fairly straightforward, but it can be a little difficult to get one's head around it. So we can do the same thing with rests as well. So if we have a crotchet rest, the dotted crotchet is a crotchet plus a quaver rest. And the same if we had say a semi-breve rest. Can we use this pen? If we have a semi-breve rest, that would equal a minim plus a crotchet. A bit of an ugly crotchet there, but that's the idea. Now, to make life simple, we can do the same trick we did earlier when we subdivided the notes into different things. So what we did is we had the semi-breve there, and we said that's equal to 2 minims. And if we split the minims up, we get 2 crotchets each. So 4 crotchets equals 1 minim, and we can split that up into quavers. And as I mentioned, we can also do the same with the rests. So, or we could write quavers that way. So that's the basic principle. Now, if we wanted to convert these into dotted ones, if we have a dotted semi-breve, so we have a dotted semi-breve, so if we remember that equals a semi-breve plus a minim. So if we divided it up into 2s like this, we'd have a little bit of a problem. But if we made dotted minims like that, if we now recall, each one of these little dots for the minim will be worth, because the dotted minim will go, dotted minim equals a minim plus a crotchet. So this is a crotchet over here, and this is a crotchet over here. So these two together is 2 minims, just bracket that off, 2 minims plus 2 crotchets. In other words, we have a semi-breve plus a minim, which gives us the dotted semi-brief there. So we can just do that. 2 dotted minims equals 1 dotted semi-brief. And so all that we need to do is just add dots to all of these. So that keeps the same relationship we had before. So where before 1 semi-brief equal to 2 minims, now we have 1 dotted semi-brief equals to 2 dotted minims. Now there's one little additional thing about dotted notes, which is double dotted notes. So if we had a dotted semi-brief up there, we can also add another dot, so we can make it double dotted. In which case we would have the semi-brief plus half a semi-brief plus half of a semi-brief. So that would equal to that. So usually one uses this type of notation more for a very specific rhythmic effect. It does come up. One thing to notice though is that there's no notation for this. So if we just had the semi-brief plus the crotchet, there's no separate notation for that. We have to use the tie to notate that. So it's only for 2 plus 1 and 2 plus 1 plus a half, which is this double dot that we have special notations for. And that is all you need to know about dotted notes and ties.